The following is a fan-based review. All materials discussed are property of Toei Inc., Bandai, and Saban Entertainment.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the Tokucast. We are about to start our newest review for Gingaman.
Yep.
But before that... 1,000!
Holy shit!
1,000 subscribers! It's here! Thank you all so much!
We have 1,000 subscribers!
We have 1,000 subscribers!
So, and it's been a year.
It's been almost a year since we started. Since we started the Tokucast.
A little less for me, but almost a year for the channel.
So before we started the review, we wanted to ask you guys something to do for us in preparation for the video to celebrate 1,000 subscribers in 1 year since it's so close together. This was I can't remember the man's name, but this was a suggestion on one of our comments, which, thank you, we had no fucking idea what to do otherwise. We're going to do a Q&A for a video. So if you have a question for us for the Q&A, put it in the comments for the next few videos until it comes out. We will be keeping an eye out and picking our bests, which ones we like, which ones we don't want to answer if it's too personal or if we don't think it's appropriate. But let us know what you want to ask us. We are looking forward to this video so much.
Also,
yes.
Before we go any further, you may have noticed some changes with the beginning of this thing.
Yes.
The Facebook pages. You gone ahead and made some changes thanks to a fan of ours.
Thank you so much.
What is
the name? Did they give us a name?
The Malaysian gamer. He sent this to me on Reddit.
Yes, thank you.
He sent us
the logos, the everything. They look so good. Thank you so much for that.
I was really blown away. I was all up in my emotions.
Yes.
For a good while. There were so many feels.
What time did you text us? It was like 12:30 in the morning.
It was late at night. I was
trying to sleep.
I'm in town temporarily. I was out on tour with my theater company at the moment, and I'm in my hotel room. We had just gotten done from a long day of driving. I see that, and I'm like, oh my gosh. My day has just been made. This is so amazing.
It was such a good day. Thank you.
So
it was 11:30 at night. I was getting ready, going to bed for work the next day, and he goes, and all I got was a fucking text that says, we have fan art. And I'm looking through it now. It is so cool. Thank you so much, man.
We got nameplates, we got logos, and we
have a disclaimer for the video.
And we have a video for the display. It looks like kind of looks like an opening to like the warning VCR.
Yeah.
They can see. It looks really, really, really good. Thank you so much.
That's so good.
Thank you.
We're gonna be making a new logo for the thing for the.
We're also eventually, as soon as I get off my lazy ass, I'll also be starting a Twitter account for Tokucast at some point. But I've been avoiding Twitter like the plague since it came out, so I'm trying to fight my inner self on that one, but I'll get that to you as soon as we can. We'll put the Twitter handle in the description and everything when it's finally done.
Well, yes. Once again, thank you, Mr. the Malaysian Gamer. This is a Mozing. I'm so happy, and this is great because it also lets me be a little bit more lazy.
And to all our 1,000 plus subscribers, thank you so much.
And if anybody else is artistically, gifted, because we're fucking not. If you have something you want to send us, go right ahead. We have a website, we have Facebook, we have Reddit, and so please, it was heartwarming to see it.
It was very nice.
So, on to the review, but because somebody's been out of town so much with their other job, I guess you have to go now.
I do.
I'm sadly used to that now from me doing it all the time.
I still can't get used to it, but I guess I'll take over his seat. Keep an eye on the audio. Oh, alright. Anyway. Gingaman is so boring it made me sleep.
It's not the most interesting of shows.
No, it's really not.
Like, there are some things I do like about it, don't get me wrong.
The retroness?
Yeah, it is a very retro series. It feels more like a earlier Sentai.
What year did it come out? 96-ish?
I want to say 8, perhaps? Let's go back up to the top of this page. It came out in February 22nd, 1998.
And yet, like, all of those, like, pictures and stuff they put at the beginning of the commercials and the end of the commercials looks like it was made in the 80s.
The eye catches are
the 80s. Very 80s style stuff.
Yeah. Which will be fine, but the way they sort of end up presenting this show, it feels a lot like Flashman.
Just boring and filler?
A little bit. But just like the way they end up presenting itself. Like, it feels, we're taking out of the situation or something that we already know. And we end up wearing these strange costumes throughout the entire thing, and we don't have last names. It feels a lot more.
We don't have last names. That's so weird. Let's start with the opening.
I like it. It gets stuck in your head.
It does, for all the wrong reasons.
First time I ever, because I think I watched Akiba Ranger before this, So I knew about the opening before anything else. Also, just a thing to point out, this is the last one that ends in man.
Holy shit.
That's also, a very retro thing, but we legitimately haven't had one that ends in man since Gingaman.
Let's talk about the suits.
I hate them.
Yeah, me too.
They're ill. Like Zyuohger has an issue with being just a little bit too plain in the chest, but this one, it just looks off. Not to mention because the fact that the actual chest white portion doesn't connect to anything else, so it's constantly moving up and down. And I really don't like their boots because they still have that white portion at the top instead of Zyuohger's where it went with the actual thing. So it just looks really weird.
It does.
But let's go over the first few episodes because they're fairly simple. So we end up showing up in the Ginga Forest. We see these two people fighting.
The Ginga trees and the Ginga animals.
With Ryoma and Hyuga. Hyuga being played by Ninja Red from Kamen Rider. I like that. They end up having this ceremony where they end up having to take out these swords from this stone, King Arthur style. And they're met up by the other people who are supposed to take out the swords. Now, Hyuga was originally supposed to be one that was to take out that sword instead of his younger brother, Ryoma, who wasn't nearly as powerful. We end up getting introduced to Hayate, Goki, Hikaru, and Saya.
And they all have civilian powers.
Yes, they all have civilian powers, where Ryoma and Hyuga end up having fire, Hayate has wind, Goki has water, Hikaru has lightning, and Saya has flowers? Sure, let's go with that. Now, the first episode isn't bad. It does introduce our characters and our villains, the Balban.
Yeah, decently enough.
The space pirates Balban.
Do you think they get, beer to go Kaijus?
No. And, it's perfectly all fine. I really like the first couple episodes of this show. We also end up getting introduced to these two civilians, whose names.
Well, the first few episodes, because you also have that thing where, what happens to Red's brother, and there's drama, and it's the beginning high, I guess you could call it, of the Sentai. But
because it's like the first 8 episodes or so.
But as it goes on and on and on, it loses that flair.
Yeah, this show is very, very slow, and it has a
very
lot
repetitive.
of it. It's just like, it's really hard to get into that, style and want to do that. Not to mention they have their own little mascot in Boku, who's basically just an acorn, and I'm just like, why do you exist?
And let's also remember that their mentor is a talking tree.
Fine with that. I'm actually fine with that.
It's wooden Olmec, though.
The way that they end up doing it is like he was a seed because the forest ends up being turned to... Shut up. He ends up being turned... Well, the forest ends up being turned to stone, along with everybody in there, by Shalinda. She
Name the seeds reference in the comment section below, and you'll be my favorite subscriber, I swear to God.
By Shalinda, one of the generals on the side of Balban. That entire forest ends up being basically sucked up and turned into stone, like all the life energy. And they use that and just... Well, after they end up sucking up all the life energy out of the forest, they basically flood the area where the forest is at so nobody else can get there. And Moek, the talking tree, wisdom tree Moek,
I'm just going to call him Wooden Olmec.
is a seed around the neck of the elder who's like has imparted all of his wisdom and everything into this seed. So when they end up planting the tree, Moek ends up coming out of it.
Wooden Olmec.
They also end up getting introduced to this kid whose name I really don't bother to remember, but I like him.
Oh, yeah.
He was fine. He had a couple moments where he was just like, I'm going to be a badass and not be Ko. And that's great.
Let's talk about the fact that this is really one of the only Sentai where their main weapon, and pretty much one of their only weapons when they're fighting, is a blade that they all share.
Yes, they don't have a blaster.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
I like the sword.
Yeah.
I like the look.
I'm already saying
I like how it, it has the dagger form and when it's sheathed and the blade form and everything.
Now, they do end up getting multiple weapons throughout this show. I mean, a lot. Let's talk about their morpho really quickly. The Ginga Brace.
Very
Spin
simple.
the dial to your color and then tap it.
Very simple in design, which they made even simpler in Lost Galaxy. Tap it.
We'll talk about that in a second.
In comparison. I do also like their individual weapons, one with the that folds into different weapons.
The Kibas.
Which I think that was really cool. That was a cool idea.
Now, the theme of this show is,
nature.
Galactic beasts and nature. And
They're a bunch of space hippies.
I'm going to say animals that end up transforming into the Zord, that end up transforming into the, actual main mech.
Doesn't look great.
Now, I like the way they end up building it up to this, and as there's a problem with a lot of more recent Sentai, we don't end up getting to see the actual mech until like episode 7 or 8, which is fine. I like the fact that we end up having a build up to this. But man, do these goddamn galactic space animals look terrible.
You're talking before or after their mechs?
Yes.
They look pretty fucking bad.
They look like the only one who ends up looking before he ends up becoming a mech is Blue. Gorilla looks fine. I don't like his pointy head.
But then he becomes mech, and then it's just worse.
Now, Pig. I hate that thing. That thing looks awful. I mean, there is like a level of just, please, who said you were a good idea? Because it looks like it has mange or something. And
it looks like it's got something.
That's just not attractive.
No, it's
it just looks so weird. And going back to, the actual suits really quickly, I hate these helmets.
Oh, yeah.
Not even really because of the lips, but that it's in that because of the fact they have like a shelf above the lips. And it looks so weird with the way that like the rest of the outfit ends up looking. I will say this in the first couple episodes.
Sorry, go ahead.
Why does Pink seem slightly sadistic in the way that she ends up fighting the ground mooks in this one?
Suppressed anger issues?
Like, she's creepy as hell. The first time that you end up seeing her, she's like behind a tree, just standing there looking at them like this, like a cat, and just scratching the bark, and then she looks at them, and then she goes back, and next thing you know, she's jumping down from above them and killing everybody. She scratches all faces and everything. It's so creepy with her.
I would also like to bring up a couple things about the Zords we didn't bring up. One, Yellows doesn't look that bad. Like, in comparison to everybody else, Yellows looks okay. Also, one of the debate that we had in college about this particular Zord, over and over. What is green?
He's supposed to be a falcon?
Because I remember you saying he's like supposed to be a dragon.
No, the name of the thing is Gingalkin. Ew.
Yeah, because that was one thing. I can't remember what we were... I remember you saying, like, no, it's a dragon. And he's called Gingagan or some shit like that.
Gingalkin.
But, so... Let us know what you think it is.
It's just not attractive either way.
No, it's not.
Also,
it is the laziest part of the actual mech itself.
Yes, it is. Now, there is a thing, because the way that the villains are set up, Balban is set up this time around, is the fact that there are factions within Balban.
Yeah.
It's like, and each one has a general, let me get their names up. It's Captain Zahab, who is like the actual Captain, Shalenda, who is their navigator, Bucrates, who was supposed to be named after books and Socrates.
Oh, damn, I was put in bureaucracy.
I'm proud of you right now. He's in a crate a barrel the entire time. Sambash.
I forgot about him.
One of the generals. Budo, who's one of the generals. Ilias, who's one of the generals. And Batobas. And later on...
And I can't wait to talk about how many of these generals made it into the actual Power Rangers adaptation.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second.
That's going to be fun.
Now, they're pretty damn, threatening.
They are.
Especially Shalenda. Her and Ginga Green having this whole thing throughout the entire show. That's pretty damn great, to be honest. Now, like I said, they have a lot. They have a really big arsenal in this one. They have the Kiba Blades that we talked about earlier, which apparently they can end up forming a Jewish star for the future.
No, it's not a Jewish star. It's a lazy star.
That too. They end up getting some beast attack rods, which are basically like rods that could turn into cannons and you get an upgrade later on. And which is fine. We don't really end up seeing them that much. The first time they end up getting up there. They do end up getting a power up with the lights of Ginga.
Which transfers to their Zord, which is not something you see every Sentai.
Yes, their mech by itself looks terrible. But with the power up, it looks actually fine.
Do you think that was the plan? It's like they planned the look of the powered up version first and then just took pieces off?
Yeah. This is like, ew. Now, a little bit on, because about every 12 episodes or so, we end up
with plot
getting a general replaced with the next one down the line.
Yeah.
And the Lights of Ginga, which is the power-up, ends up being one of those things that really pushes that along the first couple, about 17 episodes. So them actually getting it, finding it.
How long until we get the other two mechs?
We'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, okay.
They get introduced.
Those actually look good. Those actually look decent.
And they're fine. Sambash ends up dying about, I believe, episode 12, which is honestly hilarious. It's like he just ends up... I think he's on his bike, they hurt the hell out of him, and then he just goes off a cliff and blows up. Because, as you do.
Insert goofy yelp here.
And he ends up getting replaced by Budo, who is the samurai figure of this one. And we also end up getting introduced to a new extra ranger in BullBlack. Now,
whether or not you consider him an extra ranger or a sixth ranger in your mind is up to debate. I consider him the sixth ranger of the series.
I'm more inclined to believe he's an extra ranger for this one, just because he doesn't look exactly like the other ones.
I mean, neither did Gosei Knight.
Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get to Gosei, because that's confusing. Now,
my point.
It's fine with BullBlack. The Gingaman, the BullBlack when you first see them and the Gingaman do not like each other. Because BullBlack will constantly end up putting innocence into the line of fire.
Yeah, he's more about get the job done, whatever it takes.
Yeah, it's like, I don't really give a shit about any of you. His whole thing is to beat Balban, and he's the one who ends up being really tied into the Lights of Ginga. Now, at the beginning of the show, Hyuga, Ryona's brother, ends up getting basically knocked down into a crater, and BullBlack ends up finding him, his spirit does, and he takes over his body.
So he's the dead man.
He is basically the dead man. And he can't live on Earth for much longer. His whole thing is just, tied into vengeance and everything like that. And then his power does end up wearing off, and he does end up dying. He has his own mech with Bultaros.
But Bultaros, which I thought I had that as a toy.
I think I did too.
I think that was one of the better mechs of this show. Also, he becomes part of the mech in a way. He grows to become...
Bultaros, sorry.
Yeah. He grows to become the Bull Rider, and then he can actually go to make the humanoid form, which overall I think was very cool.
There's this whole thing with him, because BullBlack, his plan to defeat the Balban, and the Balban's plan the entire time is to revive the Vader castles on the back of Titanics, because it was originally sealed by the original Gingaman about 1,000 or so years ago. But BullBlack, his final thing is just like, I'm going to blow up the entire planet, fuck all y'all, because they destroyed my planet the first time around. It's like, I'm just going to go ahead and destroy the planet.
So he was a whiny sore loser bitch.
Yeah. And Gotaros was like, how about no? And stops him.
By the way, going back to the mech for a second, I just realized at least Gingaman was also one of the few mechs that had a crossbow type finisher.
Yes.
That was the point of the green one, so just to give some redemption on that.
Yes. Now, it's fine. He does have a son. He did have a son named Krantz. And Captain Zahab did end up destroying Krantz on BullBlack's original planet. And he's the one who ends up bringing the Lights of Ginga to the actual Earth when BullBlack ends up coming in. I like that. I like the fact that everything is really tied together. And after BullBlack ends up dying because his power does end up waning, Hyuga, his brother, who originally comes to that crater at the beginning of the show, is the one who ends up taking over the BullBlack powers and ends up using them throughout the rest of the show, which is fine.
I like the weapon for him. The sword with the sheath that has a blaster compartment.
Yeah.
Because anything that is a sword that can become a blaster is cool. Thank you, Linkara. But why don't we talk about the Light of Ginga as a powered up form?
It isn't
awful.
Bad. I feel like
it's not a bad prototype for what started the tradition of the power up, the power up motif for Sentai.
Mm-hmm.
The swords get extensions to the guard to make it kind of like a rapier front guard, and then a back guard as well. They get a claw on their other hand, a shoulder protection armor
Pauldron
for some reason.
I think it's the name of it.
They get their belt buckle gets bigger and a gold paint job, and they get cuffs for their their knees, and their elbows, pretty much. Simple, it works, but looks better on his own.
Yeah. Now, moving on, because not much is happening for the next little bit. There are several things that are happening towards the end of the show. But we'll move on to episode 29, and we end up meeting a new, I guess not exactly general for Balban, but someone who's basically a side character. Dark Merchant is Nella. Now, he ends up bringing in 2 extras robotic star beasts from another planet that were mortally wounded, and he ends up basically... I don't know how he did this, but he basically just separated these 2 star beasts that were once whole into 5 parts each, and makes them little robots. I'm sitting here like, I don't even want to think about how he did that, because that just seems awful.
That seems very painful.
Yes.
Call Animal Protective Service.
Now, originally they were on the side
Pina.
of Biznella, these two, and along with Gigabytus, who was another one who is basically the carrier for these two. And Biznella is much more of a side character. He is plotting against the Gingaman with Zahab and the others a lot. He's under the not exactly control, but like under Batamas, who's the last general to end up being alive in the show. He's under him, and these other two Star Beasts, like the Gingaman, end up connecting to their hearts whatever is left as actually, alive inside of them, and uses them for, they get back onto the side of the Gingaman, which is fine. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things that are just fine in this show, but I just don't have like, oh my god, this is amazing, like I do in some other.
It was a very average season.
Yes. Now, around this time, Bucrates ends up getting kicked out because Ilias is his niece, and he also has a nephew in here, and I think a grandniece and grandnephew as well. And she ends up getting destroyed out a little bit, and he ends up getting kicked out of Balban. And he ends up capturing Gotaros and making Hyuga end up fighting on his side for basically the good last part of the series. Because the whole thing at the end of it is the fact that he wants revenge on Zahab, which I actually like that, And he does have, I'm not going to say the biggest heart, but he does end up giving Gotaros back to him, back to Hyuga at the end of the show after he ends up being destroyed. I like the fact that we do end up getting 4 mechs in this show. Now, as I said, Budo ends up getting killed in 12 episodes after he first takes over after Senpage. Ilias takes over, and then she ends up getting killed 12 episodes after. It's like every 12 episodes, a new general ends up coming in.
Right.
I like that progression because it gives you, like sort of miniature arcs behind the main one of just getting Balban and make sure they can't bring back Ditonics. And the way they always end up wanting to bring back Ditonics is through getting energy. And they try different forms of energy throughout the show, gasoline and electricity, just things that normal people end up using on their everyday lives.
And things that destroy the environment.
Yes, bad stuff. There is one episode
you mentioned.
There is one episode earlier where Shalinda, the Navigator, is a giant bitch to Green, because Green is apparently supposed to get. He was engaged. He was supposed to get married, and then she ends up turning the entire forest into stone. And she has the flute of the girl that he was engaged to, because apparently she dropped it as she was running away, and in front of his face, she just ends up crushing it. I'm sitting here Shalinda, wow, he's a mess. Yeah, it's like the end of this show is not that bad. Bucrates ends up getting killed. The rest of the generals end up getting killed. There's one episode a little bit before the end where Zahab ends up really injuring Ginga Red. He ends up having to go into this cave that Hyuga originally brought him to, and then the kid that they're always around at the horse ranch that they work at comes in and constantly. Like I said, I actually really like this kid because he's really active. He comes in and he knows there's danger around, but he has to get the medicine that Moek made to Ryoma. Really like that. I think he's great. At the end of this season, Titanic does end up getting revived, of course, but he's really injured or really underpowered or something. He can't really take, because he's been sealed away for so long. He can't be out for too long. So the castle on the back that Barnabas and Balban and the others are on has to get detached, and Titanic has to go to the ground. They're doing a beating Titanics by shooting him with pure fire with Hyuga and Ryoma at the very end of the show, and they shoot straight through him, and that basically ends up destroying both Titanics and Zahab. And I don't really mind the end of this series. It's just the fact that this series is just a little bit too slow to get into because it feels so old. I just get bored.
Yeah,
and that's not.
You also didn't even bring up the horses. And horses.
All right, then. Okay.
Moving on.
Let's get to these characters. Oh no, because here's the thing. The MegaRanger Gingaman team up takes place after this show actually ends. So it's at the very end of the show. I really like it. Kent is the first one you end up seeing, of course, and I love seeing him back. He's like, I have this card, I'm a hero, but I'm also unemployed in a second. So it's just great to see everybody back fighting along the game, and they all get along, of course. I like seeing them fight together. There's this one really weird team up that I didn't expect in this, where it's Mega Yellow and BullBlack fighting together.
Huh.
I mean, they don't really do that with any other colors, but I thought that was just great. Because that was the first time that we really get to see the two teams fight together in really any of the team ups that we've talked about so far.
Yeah.
And I really like that. It's good to see them, being able to fight together. It's good to see the MegaRangers back again because they're one of my favorite Sentai teams, and I just like to see them. Let's get these characters. Let's talk about Ryoma first.
Boring.
He's not bad. It's just the fact that he has a lot to live up to because he wasn't originally the one that was supposed to get the Star Sword. It was originally supposed to be his brother, and I feel like he does live up to that throughout the rest of the show.
I just don't think they really mention it enough during the show because it just doesn't seem like to be really brought up as a motivation, except maybe once or twice. Kind of like oh yeah, my brother was supposed to be the Red Ranger.
I had to be just as strong as him because
that's what the script says.
Yeah. Ginga Green Hayate, he's supposed to be like the parent.
Is he?
As much as he could possibly be. He has that fiance that I mentioned earlier. He doesn't find Shalenda at the end and he ends up destroying her. That's great. I really like that because she deserved it.
Jesus, yeah.
I mean, he took care of Hikaru. Apparently, when they were still in the Ginga Forest, he babysat him when they were younger.
Oh, yeah.
So, I just like to have that interconnection between the two characters. It's a good thing. Goki, he's very... I don't really remember, he's not a bad character, and he is number 10 on our top 10 blues list, and he is pretty interesting in his own right. He ends up getting this love interest throughout the entire thing, throughout the show with some teacher, I believe. Doesn't really go anywhere at the end of the show, even though she does end up choosing him over some rich guy, because, there's that story. Hikaru annoys me. He's so young and just so and I really don't like his personality. I really don't like his actor that much. He's just really not that interesting, and that's sad because Lightning is great. But it's just like Hikaru himself, he's just too brash, and I guess that goes along with the element that he does end up getting.
True.
Saya. Here's the thing with her. She is legitimately the girl of this show, and that's not much to say about her. That's a problem.
That is a problem.
I mean, she has that whole thing when the first couple episodes where she snaps a couple of the moose necks, because that's what she does. She's just creepy in her suit in the first couple of episodes as well, but it's just like, she's not that interesting. I don't really remember much about her, and I watched this show.
Twice.
Yeah, it's just like, I'm sitting here like, okay, what's your point again?
The thing is, it's hard to really remember most of these characters. None of them are really that memorable.
Yeah, they don't stand out that much.
That's why it was such a meh show.
I remember more about the villains. Hyuga as the last one. I like the fact that he ends up becoming like a side mentor for the team.
Yeah.
He was the oldest who was supposed to originally get the Ginga Sword, and after he ends up becoming BullBlack and Gotar's and getting taken from him. We get a lot more with his characterization throughout the rest of the show than really anybody else in here. Because we didn't really get to know him that much at the beginning. We know he was strong and everything, but then he got sent into a crater. A crack in the cliff, and then, BullBlack took him over.
I believe the term was fissure.
Yes, that's the move that they can't use the Pokemon in the anime. Along with Earthquake and Magnitude. But yeah, it's just like, we end up getting a lot more about him just because a lot more of the actual story happens to him as a character.
Yeah.
And, which is fine. I mean, it's good to see a returning actor ends up coming back and playing a legitimately, a completely different character because Sasuke was really brash in this show. He had a whole episode where he was fighting the Flower Konoichi team by himself. But then, we end up getting this, he's supposed to be, the actual mentor of the team. And it's just good to see that, difference between those two characters that the same actor is in play. The game, I wouldn't really recommend it unless you like a lot more of the shows from the 80s.
Or if you liked Power Rangers Lost Galaxy and you want to see the source material, then give it a shot.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the worst.
Not by far.
There are some things I really like about it. But it's just, it's not the most interesting, at least to us.
It's in the middle.
Yeah, it's really, really... middle tier. It's perfectly fine though. But that's really the end of this review.
There's really not much else to talk about Gingaman because it just wasn't much to Gingaman.
Yeah.
But what are we reviewing next?
We're doing Kamen Rider Taisen and the G3 not the G3 movie. The Grand Prix movie.
Oh,
and
right.
We're also doing Kamen Rider 4. So that'd be fun seeing those doing those three.
What's the next Sentai we're doing? Go 5?
Yes.
Oh god, that's gonna be fun.
That will actually be I'm really looking forward to that one.
Because we will mention that scene in the review, but it was pretty fucking funny. But This has been another review from the Tokucast. Thanks again so much for joining. As always, like, subscribe, check out our Facebook page. We'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.